Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to this TechLab session, Dynamic Assets, Real-World Experiences, Opportunities and Pitfalls, with John Arnsdorf and Piet Saegeman of Chile Publish. Over to you both. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll be discussing dynamic assets, their real-world experiences, opportunities, and pitfalls. My name is Piet. I'm the content strategist at Chile Publisher, and joining me today is John.
Hi, everybody. John Arnsdorf. I'm the product marketing manager at Chile Publisher, and so happy you could join us today, and looking forward to running through some slides, questions, frequently experienced pitfalls and opportunities. And great, let's get started.
Okay, so at Chile Publisher, we're really privileged because we get a front row seat at very, very diverse projects, going from small and medium business projects to some of the world's best known brands and best loved brands. So we see all these things firsthand, and we'd like to share some of our experience with you guys. The first thing we'd like to talk about is how do we create marketing campaigns when we're no longer capable of speaking face-to-face in the same room? As you know, remote working is the new normal for most marketing departments, if not all, worldwide. And the question then becomes, how do we create these marketing campaigns when we don't have the frequency of contact that we had before? One thing we have to do is divide responsibilities. So as you have multiple people working on different areas of responsibility, you have to make sure that there's clear ownership for each phase of the marketing project. And I believe John has some more information on asynchronous workflows that he's seen in his projects before.
Yeah, before I came to Chile Publish, I worked for a number of different kinds of companies, small, large, and we did have, at every one of those companies, we had some kind of remote workforce. But I think one of the best examples that I could share is I was with Philips right before I joined Chile Publish, and huge multinational company, well over 100,000 employees. And I worked specifically in a team that was focused on supporting events. And we had hundreds of event managers located across the world. And I think there were definitely well over 1,000 events that we supported. So really what we needed to be able to do was create a platform that allowed everybody to have access to standardized templates that were linked to assets, but be able to customize those because it just wasn't possible to work with a team of designers that could support that level of customization that was needed in generating templates for booth graphics, promotional material, and everything that goes into supporting a trade show or event. So for us, it was really critical to have a platform that was easily accessible, something that was easy to use, intuitive, something that had brand standards built in so that anybody could use it. I hate using the word idiot proof because they're all very super smart people, but maybe graphics weren't their area of expertise. So it just needed to be able to work consistently, reliably, and deliver the kind of content that they needed. So that was something that I got to experience firsthand. It just so happened that it was with Chile Publisher. So that was my introduction to the product. But we used a digital asset management system. So we were able to pull assets in real time and right back to it. It was really the best solution for something of that magnitude.
Right. So the thing that strikes me about these projects is before there's a certain bottleneck in a marketing operations situation, which is the design team. You always have to run everything past the design team. You have to brief them. They do the work manually. And if you want to do this today with the remote working, that doesn't work anymore. So what you should be doing is thinking about template-driven workflows where, everybody has the assets they need and they can customize them as required without having to go through the design department, without having to go through all of these approval cycles that necessarily follow every time you create a new asset or you modify an asset. So you're basically increasing autonomy, you're increasing independence, you're enabling self-service for the remote team, so that they can basically build their own stuff without anybody having to interfere with it. We've seen that at companies like Airbus, for example. Airbus is a huge company with lots of moving parts. People know Airbus from the airliners, of course, but there are many different departments. They have, they make fighter planes, they make helicopters, and all of these departments are in different places. Helicopters, for example, is in Donauwörth in the south of Germany, whereas the airliner division is spread over Toulouse and a couple other locations throughout Europe. And we saw that this platform that enabled people to build their own assets with brand identity guidelines on board and with correct information from their product information management systems and DAM systems, that really made a big, big difference. I think, John, you have some experience with traveling event managers as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just being able to give them access 24/7 was critical in having them be successful, and something that enabled them to get the material that they needed so that they could work with a local print vendor or a booth manufacturer. So really, it was just about creating graphics anywhere, anytime.
Oh, all right. So it was all about enabling them without having to go through the central organization.
Yep. Cool.
Cool.
Everything was vetted in advance, approved by brand, and then published and made available.
That's a perfect segue into the next question. In this situation, how can we maintain brand governance? This is a decentralized process. Who surveils the brand? Who makes sure there's brand governance? This is where these templates come in, and especially the smart templates that Chili Publisher has on board. So smart templates are graphics documents that have certain intelligence built in. And this intelligence can be very granular, and it can be very elaborate, like a full identity guideline set can be on board, which means whenever somebody is using the smart template, they're covered. The template builder, so the designer, instead of building all of the designs by themselves, by hand, one by one, for each language, each market, each individual asset, they can build a template and decide, okay, which elements can be edited by whom and how. And then you can also make a number of decisions in the document, like how will the template react to changes to its content? The typical example is, what happens if I've got a German text that's longer than the English text and it doesn't fit? Which design decision should I take to make sure that it fits on there, but it still conforms to the brand identity guidelines? So that means that you're essentially covered. Whatever happens in the documents, the brand identity guideline is on board, and the brand violations that are typical for decentralized production can no longer happen. And I think, John, your project went further than that, where you connected to existing data sources that were already available at the company.
Yep, absolutely. We had to connect to images that were vetted in advance, because obviously, again, Philips is a global company, and different cultures have different ideas of what's acceptable or what should be represented in business and what shouldn't, down to colors and the way people are shown in particular images. So there was a lot of effort put into maintaining a very good, clean, healthy digital asset management system. And then, of course, hundreds, if not thousands, of products were loaded in so that we had product data that was accurate and was easily accessible and just integrated right into those templates. So it really alleviated a lot of the challenges that the event managers might face, because they're not necessarily aware of all the details of each particular product or the nuance of how each booth is built. But all of that logic was built into the templates. So it made it a very straightforward, easy process for them to do what they needed to do in a very short period of time, with very, very small budgets, sometimes in smaller locales.
Right, because I mean, the last thing you want is, these are high stress environments where you're trying to get the booth ready, and the the issue is that a lot of times people start rolling their own. There's no time to respect the process. So they start rolling their own, they start diluting the brand. If you look online, there's like hilarious examples you can find. So what these smart templates can do is they can make sure that the brand identity guidelines are respected in every situation. In fact, we've got a recent project with the American Cancer Society, which is about as decentralized as you get. They're volunteer-based, and all these volunteers are organizing events for fundraising. And before that, designers would have to build all of the individual assets for each event, which was impossible. So people got creative with US letter printers and color printers and inkjets, and it was not pretty. So what happened is they rolled out brand governance with smart templates, and they basically reduced, they went, I think, from 2,000 hours of manual work building assets to 117 over the same period, with more events taking place. And I think you've got some echoes from when you were at the creative agency, John, as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had obviously a number of economic downturns in my lifetime. One that stands out to me is when I was at advertising agency, like you had mentioned, was just after the housing crash in 2008, and we had a lot of clients who their budgets were dramatically cut, is the most pleasant way to say it. But at the same time, they also didn't want to sacrifice their advertising and marketing because they wanted to stay top of mind. They wanted to be out there and visible and still marketing, because that was their way to get to drive new sales. So what we had to do was get very creative, and what we did was almost strip down the budget for creative next to nothing. And instead of doing hundreds of ad hoc campaigns, we built templates, and then we built programs around those. So rather than, a handful of brand new creative that needed to be generated every month and new programming, what we did was create a year in advance. So we had maybe a dozen campaigns that were repeated week after week. And really, we were able to drop their budgets by 80% in the creative process. But we still were spending actively for advertising, marketing, ad buys, direct mail, and all of that. So in the end, it became a very positive way to reassess the way we were doing marketing for them. And it was a benefit that we carried over when the economy started improving again.
Right. And actually, I mean, we're in that situation now, right? Since lockdown, a lot of people we talk to in marketing departments have seen their marketing budget slashed. So the thing is then, how do we do what you did back at the agency and work smarter and not harder? One of the things that we at Chili Publisher use is the acronym CORE, create once, repurpose everywhere, where instead of doing all the manual work, indeed, you build a template and you use technology instead of labor to make the difference. There's the same number of assets generated, if not more, but they're not done by hand. And the role of the designer changes to where instead of them building the final deliverable, they create and curate the templates. And these templates are resistant to any kind of violation for the brand or any kind of wrong information if you connect them to data sources. So if they no longer have to create every graphic by hand, you get more bang for your buck with the templates, and your designers see the repetitive, boring parts of their job eliminated, so they can focus on more strategic things like thinking, what kind of campaign should we be running and how should we visualize that? And I think you have some experience in Casino.
Yeah. And I think that ties into the next question, which is time to market. I think building repeatable templates, it allows you to be far more nimble. And rather than getting everything in a very linear waterfall process, you're able to pull various assets that you've already created. You can repurpose them. At Chili Publish, we have a great thing for snippets where you can have essentially templates within templates. So I think that makes it incredibly quick to be able to pick and choose what elements you want to use for maybe a new campaign to be more reactive. So I think that the template process is an incredible win for companies that want to be able to be more responsive and just throw new data at it, maybe change an offer, but it allows them to react quickly. And I think what's interesting in this particular event that's going on with coronavirus is that in the first time in my life, at least, the entire planet basically is having to react in a time to market. It's not so much as a competitive response, but more so as a how do we reach customers in a new way, and how do we market, and how do we have ongoing communications, and how do we service them? So I think it's really it's been a difficult challenge to say the least for most everyone.
Absolutely. Like a lot of the work has shifted to online campaigns now because they're easily measurable. Like I said, marketing has to prove their value to the company a lot more precisely than before. And the thing that struck us is once a company takes templates to a digital channel, and I'm thinking like banner ads, for example, the number of graphics they have to generate is just mind-boggling. It goes into the hundreds and sometimes into the thousands, depending on how many variations there are in size, in content, in language. And because that's a multiplying model, all of a sudden you find yourself having to build hundreds and hundreds of these graphics. So what we can do then is, well, we use technologies like alternate layouts and dynamic layouts, and we generate based on a single template. We generate all these different variants that you need for each channel. So, Google Display Network or Facebook or LinkedIn, they all have their own kind of formats that they need to use. And that means that instead of doing the work by hand, instead of getting through all of these approval cycles, because things have been approved in the past and it's been vetted by marketing, you only need the final approval, and you don't need production approval. So production approval is when every single element has to be approved. Whereas once you get the template approved, basically you're safe, right? So this would make a creative operation a lot more responsive because you're automatically generating all of these variants in one go.
Yeah, absolutely. Even for building some demo material recently, I was staggered to find out how many variations we were producing. I think there were about 8 different product variants that we had in some demo files. And when I started doing an analysis of common sizes for display ads, all of a sudden there's 36 different sizes with 8 variations and, different background colors, and it became an exponential explosion. So I think creating a templated process is one of the most important ways to scale production. You can't throw enough hardware at it. I think you have to throw technology to be able to scale the workflows for the manual human aspect of it.
Yeah, and the way things were done in the past was you throw human capital at it, you throw people at it, and you hire more designers, you hire more freelancers. The only way you can enlarge your bandwidth or grow your bandwidth is with more people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next question we'd like to talk about is how self-service can help creative ops achieve scale. And long story short, you have to empower the user, right? I like this quote. I say it around the office all the time. And I might be showing my age a little bit here, but there used to be a movie called Tron, the first one. And the main character said, "I fight for the user." And this is something we actually do as well. We want to enable the user. We want to empower the user. What the user had as an experience before was waiting, right? You ask something of a designer, you brief the designer, and you wait until it's ready and reviewed before you can move on with your project. And that created bottlenecks, right? There's only so many designers. There's only so many people who are empowered to review content or review graphics. So how do you enable self-service, right? And enabling self-service allows you to go wide. We've actually done some stuff in the technology platform ourselves to enable cloud technology. And I think John has some more information about that as well.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Pete, it really is about scaling wide. You know, it's easy to scale up because your volume is steadily growing, or maybe you add a new client. But really, you know, it always seems, and my experience has been, it's fits and spurts, right? You're either incredibly busy and you're trying to accommodate every request, or you have nothing to do. So that's when you go back and you start refining your processes so that the next time you're busy, you can be more efficient, more productive, et cetera. So I think that the advent of cloud services has really been a big win. I'm a big fan. I was skeptical in the beginning, but I'm a big fan of cloud technology simply because the elasticity of computing. I can't tell you how many servers I bought and antiquated, and signing up for different service level agreements of internet connections, and it was a task unto itself. And when you're working with smaller companies who don't have IT staff, it can be a real challenge. So there's a huge win for services that come through cloud service, because frequently you don't have to worry about server administration, running backups, or doing updates. It just works, and as long as you partner with the right companies, I should say, it works. And I think that that's an important tool that people need to be using when at all possible. And I think also it goes without saying that many cloud platforms are built to be integrated with each other, speak common API languages, and I think that it is something that needs to be explored more for people who haven't already, kind of jumped in with both feet.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt there both. We are running out of time now, so if you could wrap things up, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks for that. So we've been talking about smart templates. Just a quick word on what they are. They're templates that have brand identity guidelines on board. They're extremely flexible and intelligent. They enable self-service, and they eliminate manual labor. If you'd like to learn more about dynamic assets and how smart templates can drive a DAM adoption, for example, please reach out to us. Come visit our booth. Look at our website, which is chili-publish.com. There's a lot of really good resources on the subject. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.